How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RickPop and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today we have a interesting topic. Now, I was planning a video about Battlefield 5 and where the game is currently standing and how potentially it could fail based on the fact that the pre-orders are 85% lower than Black Ops 4, a game that actually currently itself is also struggling with the fans, but Battlefield is doing even worse. And so today we got the news that Battlefield 5 has been delayed. Now, I asked the question, will this save the game from demise? That's the question I asked today, and in the background you'll be seeing some Battlefield 1 gameplay, as well as maybe some clips from like Battlefield 5 gameplay, you know, if there's anything online, because I haven't been able to play the actual alpha, wasn't able to afford it back when they first announced it, and kind of forgot about the game, kept up to date with the news, and I remember that whole big thing happening, so we'll discuss it overall today, guys. So, let's get started. So to begin with, we know for a fact now, and I'm going to be reading an article here from Eurogamer, which I'll link down below as well, Battlefield 5 delayed a month, no longer sandwiched between Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. EA has announced a month delay for Battlefield 5 was due to be out in 19th of October, sandwiched between big hitters Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. It's now due to be out on the 20th of November. So they explain here, the general manager of DICE said, "We're going to take the time to continue to make some final adjustments to core gameplay to ensure real delivery on the potential of Tides of War," which is like their new sort of like, I guess the equivalent to Operations, like their bigger sort of thing. Actually, Tides of War, I guess, is the other thing, which is like this meta game that goes on. But yeah, Tides of War is DICE's game as a service planned for Battlefield 5 and replaces the previous community splitting premium pass, paying for the expansion packs. So, in all honesty, this sounds fine. Now, there is an underlying thing here, and that's why the title of the video is, you know, will this save Battlefield 5? We all know, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the game is not doing great in pre-orders. It is falling behind Call of Duty Black Ops 4 by a big amount, and that's what we heard from back then. I'm not sure if that's changed since that actual article came out about the, you know, really low pre-orders and stuff, but we all know for a fact why a lot of people are not pre-ordering the game. Their promotion of this game has been god-awful. It's been a total mess. They really haven't gotten these things done right. Like, in all honesty, if you guys remember, when it was just about to be announced, they had Trevor Noah there, they were doing this whole, like, little, like, spectacle little thing, right? This little, like, announcement, and then they didn't even show any gameplay. There was actually no gameplay in that announcement. There was just a trailer that misrepresented what the game was supposed to be based on the gameplay and the stuff we heard from people who did play the game and did see like a behind-the-scenes version of the gameplay. It wasn't what the game was supposed to be. Instead, we saw a female character with a freaking robotic arm and a katana. Now, personally, I don't really care about females in games. I know a lot of people have an issue with this. In all honesty, there are times where I feel it's a little bit weird when I'm playing or like when I'm watching gameplay of like Battlefield, you know, Battlefield 5. There are moments where you just hear a scream of like a female character and it just feels a little bit off. It just feels a little bit off, but it's not the end of the world. You know, I understand why they did it. They want to do this whole like, you know, thing where everybody can be involved. And I get it. The female market is growing, but then again, the Battlefield community, it's kind of different. The Battlefield community just wants their games to be fun, big battles, and just, you know, full-on war and just crazy shit, but they don't want it to be, you know, people running around with katanas like one of the other characters in that trailer. It was a bit ridiculous. The trailer was pretty bad, in all honesty. It was really awful. But when I saw it, I was like, okay, hey, I'm excited to just play, like, you know, another Battlefield game. I'm excited to play Battlefield 5. Battlefield 1 wasn't the best in my opinion, but hey, they can probably improve upon that, and World War II is like one of my like favorite, like, you know, places to base a game on, because it's like so huge and there's so many things that happened, and you know, it's an interesting area to kind of like make a game on, and it's been done in the past, and you know, that was DICE's first ever Battlefield game was you know, Battlefield 1942. So clearly they've had experience there. But then you saw the trailer, which totally didn't feel like it was supposed to be, like, it felt off, you know, it felt off. When I saw it, I was like, okay, I mean, hey, I'm on board. I mean, I want to just play another game. I was excited at the time. But I was also aware that the trailer wasn't really the best representation. But then they showed off gameplay and stuff during EA's, you know, presentation and whatnot at, I guess during, like, E3. They showed off more gameplay. YouTubers got to upload gameplay, which was really a weird thing where they kind of let the YouTubers, the, you know, influencers, handle that part of things, like sharing the gameplay instead of them actually uploading, you know, gameplay footage. to their own YouTube channel, the, Battlefield YouTube channel, or like the EA's, like, YouTube channel and whatnot. Like, they didn't upload it there, which was really weird. It was so weird, but whatever. So now we are here today. What has happened since those, trailers dropped? Well, people have been negative. People didn't want females in a game that's supposed to be authentic to World War II. People have argued from both sides, from the side that, supports females in like a World War II game to the other side that doesn't support it. I think most people that just don't want it is just that they feel it just doesn't seem right for a game that's about World War II. It doesn't make it feel authentic, and it feels really weird when you're seeing people running around, not just like female characters, but also people running around with katanas, robotic arms, war paint that looks like something out of freaking God of War. It seems a little bit ridiculous for Battlefield that's always kind of felt like it was a step above, like, Call of Duty in realism, because, let's be fair, Call of Duty is not a good game if you're looking for realistic warfare. At least Battlefield was somewhat better. It wasn't at the level of something like Arma 3 or whatever, but it was somewhat in there, as like one of the more respected games when it came to realism. Of course, over time, there's been like, differentiation in opinions there, but generally speaking, everybody could kind of agree Battlefield was seen as the more mature and more realistic game to play compared to like Call of Duty, which is its rival. Now, of course, they're totally different games. One of them is like, big maps, big vehicles and whatnot. The other game is supposed to be more close quarters and whatnot, and quick action and just like, adrenaline pumping. I get that. That's kind of the point. But again, it was weird to fans because you see your game franchise, a franchise you follow for a long time, especially the Battlefield fans. You see a game that doesn't look, a trailer that doesn't represent what you define as Battlefield. You see these characters that run around looking like they're out of Call of Duty with like war paints and stuff that looks like something you'd see in COD, and you get confused. You see a female character with a robotic arm, which was the most ridiculous part about that. Not that it's a female character in World War II running around like a British soldier and, she's killing a bunch of people. That's not even the weirdest part. It's the robotic arm. That's the weird part. Like, that's unrealistic as all hell, but it's there. And of course, we know why they did that. One, they want to please the kind of SJW crowd by having females in the game, because that's kind of obvious. But at the same time, also, this is the only way that they can make more money. What I mean by this is they have to sell you microtransactions no matter what. That's the thing with Battlefield. They have to like do something to replace the loss in revenue from no longer having a premium pass, aka they now have Ties of War. So now we're coming to the delay and why I think the delay happened compared to like, development issues. Now, as you guys remember, the head at EA, or the head at the DICE, like the director of like, whatnot at EA, he basically told fans that they're uneducated, essentially called them stupid, and told them to either buy the game or just like, not play. Like either, you buy it or you don't, just don't buy it if you don't want to play it. And guess what? Fans kind of took it up on that. The game was poorly promoted. The game didn't look like what people expected it to be. And people just said, hey, okay, you're literally calling us uneducated. You're attacking us. Guess what? We're not going to buy your game. That's just how it is. And that's what ended up happening. Essentially, people just said, okay, hey, you don't want us to buy your game? Guess what? We won't buy your game. You told us, so that's what you get. And that's where we are today. Now we see there's a delay. All of a sudden, there's a delay, and it's kind of obvious. Now, I've seen people like Angry Joe, and I love Angry Joe. He's a great freaking YouTuber, and he specifically mentioned in his like rant about this whole thing, he mentioned, why does Battlefield keep putting their games in an area where they conflict with like titles like Call of Duty? They always put their games right next to Call of Duty, and that causes the games to flop. It essentially is going to get destroyed the same way Titanfall 2 was. I personally loved Titanfall 2, and I remember when it came out, I was playing the living shit out of it, but after a while, like literally the first week, I noticed there isn't many people to play with. I feel like I've ended up in same lobbies with same people way too many times, and there's just a low amount of people playing it. And that's because the game was sandwiched between the biggest game of that year, which was like, I can't remember which Call of Duty it was. I'm not sure if it was Infinite Warfare or whichever one. There's so many CODs, and Battlefield 1 that year. And it's like, what do you expect is going to happen here when you're putting like two giant, like, juggernaut franchises and then, another one of your games in between there, and all of them are FPS games, first-person shooters. They're going to get crushed. Especially the smallest ones, going to get crushed. And that's what ended up happening. And this time around, you have Red Dead Redemption 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Call of Duty has its faithful fans that are always going to buy the games. That's just a guaranteed. The Call of Duty fandom, they're always going to buy the games. While on the other side, you have Red Dead Redemption, the most hyped up game of 2018. The most excitable game. The thing that gets the most people excited right now is the thought of playing Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, Rockstar doesn't put out many games. They put out games once in a while, and when they do put out a game, the whole community has its eyes on that game. The whole gaming community has its eyes on that game, and that's what's going on right now. So you're putting a game in between those, and you're doing shitty promotion, you're pissing off your, main fandom. You're not doing good there. You're causing a lot of problems for yourself. So what they do is, okay, let's delay the game for safety reasons. Let's make sure we give people the chance to try out our game, play the open beta, do that, show off more gameplay, get more things, better, prepared for them, and then we'll actually show them the game, and, we'll actually release the game at a later time, so we're not conflicting with the sales from, other franchises, because that will cause us a lot of issues. Of course, let's be fair, November the 20th is when they essentially have moved it to, but I will say that could still be a little bit of a problematic situation, if I'm going to be frankly honest. Now, again, I've been trying to say here that the reason they're doing this is because of the big issue of the drama that's been happening, with the developers, essentially the head of the freaking studio, essentially saying, hey, don't buy the game if you don't want it, just go away, and calling people uneducated, plus the poor, promotional work they've done for the game, the fact that people just don't even know what the game is. Based on the gameplay I've seen, it looks pretty fun. I'm gonna be frankly honest. It looks pretty fun. It looks very similar to Battlefield 1 though, but it also makes sense. Like World War II and World War I, pretty close in proximity when you think about it. Like in terms of like what the times were. Of course, there was way more weapons and way more general like technological improvements, between World War I and World War II, but generally speaking, the general world kind of was the same. There was a little bit of a forward, momentum there, but the general world was the same. So I understand if like the general world we see is kind of similar. But the maps, the Amsterdam map looks great. The Norwegian map looks interesting. I mean, I guess it would be pretty fun to see that, because I see the kind of like buildings in that map remind me of the buildings I see here in Sweden. So I'm just like, hey, it's kind of relatable. I can see, what's up here. It's kind of interesting. I don't mind seeing this. It's like we always kind of see, D-Day and all these sort of maps. But it's kind of fun to see something different sometimes. And this is kind of interesting. Of course, I'd also love D-Day. Just wink, wink. But, this looks interesting. So what could this be, guys? I want to ask you, and again, I'm just saying here, could this save the game? Will them moving the game to a different date save them? Well, I think it will, because in all honesty, you were fighting against two juggernauts, and now you're just fighting against like Fallout 76, I think. Unless I'm wrong here, I could be wrong, but you're not fighting against any other big franchise games. I guess Pokemon, but you can't really count Pokemon into this conversation because it's a totally different franchise and totally different fans. So you're essentially taking, the perfect month for you, because November is going to be good. Of course, a lot of people are going to be buying, Red Dead Redemption in, October, but by the time they bought it, they've played it, they've played through the game, then here comes November, and boom, you can buy Battlefield. If you feel like playing like a multiplayer game all of a sudden, you got Battlefield coming up. So, in all honesty, I feel like this is a good choice. It could save the game, it could give them time to work out their strategy for promotional work, give people more time to try out their game, put out more gameplay, all that stuff. They could do so many things here to save the face of the game and make sure that they do better this time. And I think that's what's going to happen, guys. But I don't know if it's a guarantee. I would love to know your opinions on the actual subject. And yeah, that's going to be just about it, guys. I think the game can actually be saved from this. I think there's a potential it could be. Then again, I don't appreciate what the developer or the head guy that's actually doesn't even work at EA anymore, can't remember what his name was, but calling your fans uneducated and all that shit, that's just bad, man. And just trying to force like political agendas and stuff onto people, just don't do that shit. I may have to do a video talking about this at a later time, because it's literally a thing that bothers me a lot, because I've noticed it in games way too often lately, and just in media in general. There's just this kind of like pushing of political agendas, and as someone who doesn't give a shit about like political crap, it really annoys me, because I'm just like, hey, I just want to enjoy my products without having to be forced some narrative. But it is what it is. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name's been RigPop, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.